What if I told you that confidence isn't something you're born with? It's something your brain can rebuild at any age. Imagine unlocking the neuroscience behind self-belief, where every thought, habit, and choice can literally rewire your mind to strengthen confidence. You don't have to stay stuck in doubt or fear. Science shows that with the right tools, you can retrain your brain to trust yourself again, and I'll show you how. This isn't motivation, it's transformation. Let's dive into the brain science of believing in yo-yo. Confidence lives in the brain, not just the mind. When we talk about confidence, most people imagine it as a personality trait, something you either have or you don't. You've probably met those people who walk into a room and seem to radiate certainty, while others shrink back, hoping not to be noticed. For years, society has made us believe that confidence is a matter of luck, upbringing, or genetics. But here's the truth. Confidence is not floating around somewhere outside of you. It lives inside your brain. It's not fixed. It's not permanent. And neuroscience shows us it can be built, rebuilt, and strengthened just like a muscle. Now, let's get curious about what's actually happening in the brain when we feel confident. Confidence is not magic, it's biology. At the core of it, two major players are constantly at work: the prefrontal cortex and the amygdala. The prefrontal cortex, right behind your forehead, is the decision-making, rational, planning part of your brain. It's the voice that says, I've prepared, I can handle this. Let's go. The amygdala, on the other hand, is your alarm system, the part that screams, danger, don't do this. Stay small, stay safe. Every time you're about to take a risk, whether that's speaking up in a meeting, asking for an opportunity, or trying something new, these two brain regions engage in a tug of war. One pulls you forward, the other pulls you back. Confidence arises when your prefrontal cortex can quiet that alarm and push you into action despite the fear. That's why it often feels so hard to just believe in yourself. It's not that you're weak. It's that your brain's alarm system is wired to protect you. But here's the empowering part. You can train your brain to rebalance that tug of war. You can strengthen the circuits of belief, action, and courage so that the rational, forward-moving voice gets louder and the fearful one becomes quieter. Let me share an example. Think about the very first time you tried to ride a bike. You were wobbly, probably fell a few times, and maybe even thought, I'll never get this. But your brain was actually wiring a brand new confidence circuit. Each time you got back on the bike, your prefrontal cortex reminded you of what you had just learned, and slowly those circuits grew stronger. Eventually, the alarm from the amygdala, don't do it, you'll fall, got quieter, and the brain's belief system shifted. I can do this. That is confidence being built at the neural level. And this doesn't just apply to childhood skills. As adults, our brains remain remarkably adaptable through a process called neuroplasticity. That means we are always capable of creating new wiring, even for confidence. Each time you take a small step outside your comfort zone, speaking up once, asking one brave question, trying one new thing, you're strengthening the prefrontal cortex's grip in that tug of war. And slowly, your brain starts to lean into courage rather than retreating to fear. What I love most about this science is the relief it offers, because it means if you've lost confidence somewhere along the way, it isn't gone forever. If life experiences, criticism, or failure have chipped away at your self-belief, that doesn't mean you can't get it back. Your brain has the ability to rebuild it. Every thought you reinforce, every choice you make, every risk you take, it's all exercise for your confidence circuits. So the next time you catch yourself thinking, I'm just not a confident person, I want you to remember this confidence is not a personality trait. It's a brain state. It's something your neural circuits create. And like any muscle, it can grow with practice. And that's where the journey begins. If confidence lives in the brain, then so does self-doubt. To understand how to truly rebuild belief in yourself, we need to explore what happens when the brain gets stuck in cycles of fear and hesitation. Because only by understanding the science of self-doubt can we begin to rewire it. Closing line confidence isn't who you are, it's what your brain can become. The science of self-doubt. If confidence is something we can build in the brain, then why does it feel so fragile? Why is it that one mistake, one failure, or even one critical comment can shake us so deeply? The answer lies in understanding the science of self-doubt, because just as confidence is a brain state, so is doubt. And when left unchecked, it can grow louder and louder until it drowns out belief in ourselves. Think about a time when you wanted to take a chance, maybe applying for a new role, raising your hand in a meeting, or even reaching out to someone you admire. In that instant, your prefrontal cortex might have said, this could be a great opportunity. But almost immediately, another voice kicked in. What if I mess up? What if I'm not good enough? What if they laugh at me? That second voice is not your imagination. It's your amygdala, your brain's fear center, stepping in to protect you. From an evolutionary perspective, this made perfect sense. Thousands of years ago, being cautious, hesitating before stepping into the unknown, kept our ancestors safe from threats. The brain evolved to detect danger quickly and to amplify it so we wouldn't take unnecessary risks. But here's the problem. The same system that once protected us from predators now overreacts to modern challenges. Speaking up in class, going after a dream job, or sharing your ideas with the world triggers the same ancient alarm system. The amygdala doesn't know the difference between a life-threatening tiger and the fear of embarrassment. To your brain, both feel like danger. And here's what makes it tricky. The more you listen to that alarm, the stronger it becomes. Every time you retreat instead of taking action, those fear-based circuits get reinforced. The brain learns avoidance feels safer. Over time, doubt becomes the default setting. That's why after enough criticism, rejection, or failure, people start to internalize a story. I'm not capable. I can't do this. Confidence is for other people, not me. But remember, this is not truth. It's simply the brain replaying old, well-worn patterns. There's also another player at work here, memory. The hippocampus, the part of the brain responsible for storing past experiences, loves to pull out files of your failures and replay them when you're about to try again. It whispers, remember the last time you tried and didn't succeed? Let's not go through that again. The combination of an overactive amygdala and a selective hippocampus can make self-doubt feel incredibly convincing. But here's the empowering shift. Neuroscience shows that these circuits are not set in stone. Self-doubt is not a permanent identity. It's just a neural habit. And like any habit, it can be unlearned and replaced. The very same brain that stores memories of failure also has the power to highlight successes. The same circuits that amplify fear can be retrained to calm down. This is why people who practice reframing, gratitude, and even mindfulness show measurable changes in their brain's activity. They're teaching the prefrontal cortex to quiet the amygdala and rewrite the story. Let's make this practical. The next time doubt shows up, because it will, pause and recognize it for what it is: your brain's ancient alarm system trying to protect you. Instead of letting it dictate your next move, bring your prefrontal cortex back online with one simple question. What's the best that could happen if I try? That question shifts the circuitry from fear of failure to the possibility of growth. And every time you choose possibility over paralysis, you weaken the grip of self-doubt and strengthen the circuits of belief. What's important to remember is that doubt isn't proof that you're incapable. It's proof that your brain is doing its job a little too well. By seeing it through the lens of neuroscience, we can take away its power. You are not your doubts. You are the person who can retrain your brain to move beyond them. Closing line: self-doubt is just fear dressed as truth, and your brain has the power to rewrite the story. Neuroplasticity. Rewiring for confidence. If self-doubt is just a set of old brain patterns, then the natural question becomes, how do we change them? This is where one of the most exciting discoveries in neuroscience comes in: neuroplasticity. And I want you to really take this in because it changes everything. Neuroplasticity is the brain's ability to rewire itself, to create new pathways, to adapt and to grow. For a long time, scientists believe that once you reached adulthood, your brain was basically fixed. You were stuck with the circuits you had, for better or worse. But now we know that isn't true. Your brain is alive, flexible, and capable of reshaping itself every single day of your life. Think about that for a moment. It means that no matter how long you've struggled with doubt or fear, no matter how many times you've told yourself you're not confident, your brain has not locked you into that identity. It can change. And the way it changes is through repeated practice, through the choices you make and the actions you take. Here's how it works. Imagine a hiking trail through the woods. The first time someone walks that path, it's barely visible, overgrown, hard to follow. But every time they walk it again, the path becomes a little clearer, a little more worn in, until eventually it's the obvious route. That's how neural pathways work. Every time you think a thought, take an action, or repeat a habit, you're strengthening that pathway in your brain. If you keep reinforcing thoughts like, I'm not good enough, that becomes the well-worn trail. But if you start practicing thoughts like, I can learn this, or I can take this step, you're carving a new path and the brain begins to favor it. The beauty of neuroplasticity is that it doesn't require giant leaps. It thrives on small, consistent steps. You don't have to transform your confidence overnight. You just have to give your brain repeated evidence that you're capable, that you can handle uncertainty, that you can show up. Over time, those small steps add up, and suddenly the pathway of confidence is stronger than the pathway of doubt. Take something as simple as speaking up once in a meeting when you'd normally stay quiet. In that moment, your amygdala might flare up with fear, but the second you act, your prefrontal cortex gets stronger. Do it again and again, and your brain starts to wire in a new identity. I'm someone who speaks up. The brain doesn't know the difference between small victories and big ones. It just knows what you repeat. And repetition is the fuel for neuroplasticity. Now, here's the part I love. This process isn't just about behavior, it's also about imagination. Studies show that when you vividly visualize yourself succeeding, the brain activates many of the same circuits as if you were actually doing the task. That means even before you step into a challenging situation, you can begin wiring in confidence just by rehearsing it in your mind. You're literally training your brain for success. And here's the most practical takeaway. Every single one of you has the ability to start this rewiring process today. Not by waiting to feel confident first, but by acting even when you feel uncertain, because it's not confidence that creates action, it's action that creates confidence. Every step forward is like lifting a weight for your brain. Each repetition strengthens those circuits until one day you look back and realize the voice of doubt has gotten quieter and the voice of belief is leading the way. So don't think of confidence as something you either have or don't have. Think of it as something you practice, something you build, something you literally shape in your brain over time. That's the gift of neuroplasticity. No matter where you're starting from, you are not stuck. You are in motion, and your brain is ready to grow with you. Closing line confidence doesn't arrive first. It's built one rewired pathway at a time. The confidence-body connection, we've talked about how confidence is shaped in the brain and how self-doubt can hijack those circuits. We've also explored how neuroplasticity gives us the power to rewire and build belief in ourselves through practice. But there's another piece of the puzzle that's just as important, and it lives in the body, because confidence isn't just a mental state, it's also a physical state. The way we move, breathe, and carry ourselves has a direct impact on the chemistry of the brain and the way we feel about ourselves. Let's start with movement. When you exercise, even something as simple as a brisk walk, your brain is flooded with neurotransmitters like dopamine, serotonin, and endorphins. These are the chemicals of motivation, mood, and reward. They're like your brain's natural confidence boosters. Dopamine says, yes, you can. Serotonin brings a sense of calm and balance. Endorphins give you that uplifted energy. Together, they create a neurochemical environment that makes you more resilient, more optimistic, and yes, more confident. Have you ever noticed how different you feel after moving your body compared to when you've been sitting still for hours? That shift is not just in your muscles, it's in your brain. Movement literally primes your brain for confidence. That's why so many people say their best ideas come while running, walking, or even dancing. Their brains are bathing in the very chemicals that support creativity, problem solving, and courage. But it's not only about exercise in the traditional sense. Even small physical changes in posture can make a difference. When you slump forward with your shoulders collapsed and your gaze down, you're signaling both to yourself and to others that you're uncertain or withdrawn. Your body posture feeds back into your brain's assessment of how confident you feel. On the other hand, when you stand tall, shoulders back, chin up, your body is sending a very different message I'm here, I'm ready, I belong, and your brain responds accordingly. Breathing is another powerful, often overlooked tool. When you're nervous, your breath tends to get shallow and fast. That triggers your brain to believe something is wrong, fueling more anxiety and self-doubt. But when you slow your breath, long, steady inhales and even longer exhales, you activate the parasympathetic nervous system, the body's calming response. That signals to your brain, I'm safe. And when the brain feels safe, it allows the circuits of confidence to come online more easily. What's remarkable is how quickly these physical shifts can take effect. You don't need months of training to experience them. A 2-minute posture change, a few cycles of slow breathing, or even a quick walk around the block can begin to change your brain chemistry and tilt you toward confidence. These are immediate tools that anyone can use anywhere, and it goes deeper than just feeling good in the moment. Over time, regular movement, conscious posture, and mindful breathing actually reshape the brain itself. Exercise, for example, has been shown to grow new brain cells in the hippocampus, the region tied to learning and memory. That means it not only boosts your mood, it strengthens your ability to hold on to experiences of success. The more you move, the more your brain literally builds the hardware for long-term confidence. What I love most about this is how empowering it is. You don't need to wait for a big external achievement to feel more confident. You can start with your body right here, right now. You can create the internal conditions for confidence by simply moving, breathing, and carrying yourself in a way that tells your brain, I can do this. And this creates a beautiful cycle. The more your body supports your brain, the more your brain supports your body. You stand taller, you feel stronger, you act bolder. Confidence becomes not just a thought in your head, but an energy that radiates through your entire being. Closing line, when you move your body into confidence, your brain will follow. Memory and visualization as brain training tools. We've seen how the body can send powerful signals to the brain, changing the chemistry that makes confidence possible. But there's another way to train the brain that doesn't involve movement at all. It involves memory and imagination. And this is one of the most fascinating aspects of neuroscience. Your brain doesn't always distinguish between what's real and what's vividly remembered or imagined. That means you can use your own past experiences and your own mind's eye to build the very circuits of confidence you need. Let's start with memory. The hippocampus, which helps store and retrieve memories, has a strong connection to the emotional centers of the brain. This is why when you recall a moment of pride or success, you don't just remember the event, you actually feel some of the confidence you had in that moment. The brain is reactivating those old circuits, bringing them back online. It's like replaying a highlight reel that strengthens the wiring of belief in yourself. Here's something practical you can try. The next time you're about to face a challenge, pause and think back to a time when you succeeded at something that once felt hard. Maybe it was finishing a project, learning a new skill, or even overcoming a setback. When you recall it vividly, the sights, the sounds, the emotions, your brain is not just remembering, it's rehearsing. Those confidence circuits light up again, and they prime you to take on what's ahead. But the brain can do even more than replay the past. It can also preview the future. When you imagine yourself succeeding, whether that's nailing a presentation, having a tough conversation, or stepping onto a big stage, your brain activates many of the same neural networks it would use if you were actually doing it. Athletes have used this for decades, visualizing the perfect swing, the perfect shot, the perfect race. And neuroscience shows it works because the brain is practicing in advance, laying down the pathways that make success more likely when the real moment comes. This is where imagination becomes a training ground. When you visualize with detail and emotion, your brain begins to treat it as real experience. That means every time you see yourself walking with confidence, speaking with clarity, or handling a challenge with calm, you're strengthening the circuits that will support you in the actual moment. In other words, visualization is not daydreaming, it's brain training. What makes this especially powerful is combining memory and imagination. Recall a past success to remind your brain, I've done hard things before. Then immediately imagine yourself doing the new thing ahead of you with the same confidence. This two-step process uses both the past and the future to shape your brain's belief in the present. It's like telling your nervous system, see, you've already proven yourself. And here's the path forward. And here's a little secret. You don't have to visualize perfection. In fact, it's even more effective to imagine yourself facing challenges and working through them successfully. That way, your brain isn't only rehearsing best case scenarios, it's practicing resilience. It learns, even if things get messy, I know how to navigate. That's real confidence, not the absence of difficulty, but the belief that you can handle whatever comes. The more you engage in this practice, the more natural it becomes. Over time, the brain begins to default toward confidence rather than fear because it has rehearsed that state so many times. Just like athletes, musicians, and performers, you can walk into your own arenas, your workplace, your relationships, your goals already wired for success. So whether you're remembering a time you've already triumphed or imagining a victory that hasn't happened yet, you are actively shaping the neural circuits of self-belief. You're not waiting for confidence to appear. You're creating it thought by thought, rehearsal by rehearsal. Closing line. When you train your brain with memory and imagination, confidence stops being a wish and starts becoming a habit. From science to daily practice, we've now seen that confidence isn't just a personality trait, it's a brain state. We've seen how self-doubt comes from ancient circuits trying to keep us safe, how neuroplasticity allows us to rewire those circuits, how the body fuels the brain, and how memory and imagination can train us for success. But here's the real question: how do we take all of this science and make it part of our daily lives? Because the truth is, confidence isn't built in a single moment of inspiration. It's built in the everyday practice of training your brain. The brain loves consistency. Every time you repeat a thought or a behavior, you're reinforcing a pathway. And the simplest, smallest practices, when done daily, have a massive impact over time. Think of it like brushing your teeth. You don't brush once and expect your teeth to stay healthy forever. You brush every day. Confidence works the same way. It's not one big event. It's a habit you build. So what does that look like in practice? One of the most effective habits is gratitude. When you take a few minutes each day to write down or reflect on things you're grateful for, your brain shifts its focus. Instead of replaying failures or anticipating threats, the hippocampus and prefrontal cortex start strengthening positive recall. You're training your brain to notice success, to highlight wins, to expect good things. And over time, this rewires the system away from fear and toward possibility. Another powerful habit is movement. We've already talked about how exercise boosts neurotransmitters, but the key is making it part of your routine. It doesn't need to be intense. 10 minutes of walking, stretching, or dancing around your living room is enough to activate those confidence-boosting chemicals. The more regularly you move, the more your brain learns to operate in that elevated, resilient state. Reframing failure is another essential daily practice. Every time something doesn't go as planned, your brain has two options: file it under proof I can't, or file it under evidence I learned. When you consciously choose the second option, you change the wiring. You're teaching your brain that setbacks are not the end of confidence, they're the building blocks of it. Imagine how different your life could feel if every stumble became part of the training, not a reason to stop. And finally, there's the practice of small risks. If neuroplasticity thrives on repetition, then every small act of courage is like a rep in the gym. Speak up once. Try something new once. Step slightly outside your comfort zone once. Each time you do, the prefrontal cortex grows stronger, the amygdala quiets down, and the habit of confidence deepens. It's not about giant leaps. It's about tiny steps repeated until they add up to something extraordinary. What's important here is to remember that these habits are not abstract. They're tools you can carry into every part of your life. Gratitude shapes how you see yourself. Movement changes how you feel in your body. Reframing failure shifts how you interpret challenges. Small risks expand what you believe is possible. Together, they create a cycle where confidence is not an occasional visitor. It's a daily state your brain knows how to return to. The beauty of all of this is that confidence stops being something you wait for and it becomes something you generate. You no longer have to hope it shows up at the right moment. You create it through the way you move, the way you think, the way you practice. And the more you practice, the more natural it becomes. So as you walk away today, I want you to remember that confidence is not out there somewhere waiting to be found. It's in here waiting to be built. Your brain is ready to change. Your circuits are ready to rewire. And every day, in every small action, you have the power to create the confident version of yourself you've always wanted to be. Closing line, confidence is not a gift. It's a daily practice your brain is waiting for you to begin. Outro of this video, what if the only thing standing between you and the life you want isn't talent, opportunity, or luck, but the way your brain is wired for confidence? Imagine this: every doubt you've carried, every time you've held back, isn't proof you're weak. It's just your brain's ancient alarm system playing on repeat. The incredible news: neuroscience shows you can rewire it. You can rebuild confidence no matter your age, past failures, or fears. Today, I'll share how to retrain your brain to trust yourself again and step boldly into the life waiting for you.